Yes, you get me twice in one day. I know you're so excited, but yes, there is white smoke coming from Morgantown. Neal Brown has landed on a starting quarterback for the 2023 season. Well, let me take that back. For at least the Penn State game. We'll get into that here in just a minute. But Neal Brown has said for the better part of the last 9 months that this is going to be a wide open competition between Garrett, Greene, between Nicco, Marchiol. He wasn't going to bring in a transfer quarterback like he has done in years past. He really felt like one of these two guys would take a step and be that guy and be able to build around, this program to build around one of these two guys for the coming years. And he did that. He didn't go out and get a transfer quarterback. He stuck with those two guys. He brought in a true freshman and Sean Boyle also to kind of help give them a third quarterback in the room. But he went through spring. He went through the two scrimmages here, the 15 or so practices of fall camp before landing on a guy. And now he finally has that guy. Who is it? Well, I can't really say. We obviously know. I think we can all kind of assume who that guy is. Neal didn't mention that person by name. Obviously, wanting to keep everything that he can in his advantage going into this Penn State game. Doesn't want to let them know who that is. I'll give my opinion on it here in a minute. But first, let's hear from Neal Brown. This is what he said just a few hours ago in the press conference room at Mountaineer Field.
Y'all want to know about the quarterback. I know who we're going to play. I know who's going to start. I don't know if we'll share that or not. But yeah, that's been decided. No, it kind of verified kind of what had been happening throughout camp, Mike. It's and just one, it's both guys have gotten better, but one of them's performed at a higher level, and we're going to continue to push them. We're going to continue. We can play both of them in the game. I mean, I feel comfortable with both of them. It's just it's been clear who's ahead at this point.
So there you have it. Make of that what you will. I think it's pretty obvious as to who that guy is. I know who that guy is. And if you just go through if you comb through some of the things that Neal Brown has said over the last few weeks, he's talked about how there's been one quarterback that has been really high at times and then really low at times. And there's been one quarterback who has kind of been steady Eddie throughout this whole thing. And if you just look at it for that tells you who the quarterback is. The younger guy, Nicco Marchiol, has been a little bit up and down, but his highs have been super, super high. Like some of these plays that Nicco is making in practice are just incredible. Everything that I've heard is that he's making really game-changing type plays. But he also has that boneheaded moment every now and then, which is to be expected from a redshirt freshman. For Garrett Greene, he's kind of what you've seen from the last 2 years in terms of he's starting to show that he's developing as a true all-around quarterback. We know that he can run the ball. We know that he's got very good arm. He's got a very good arm. He's got accuracy. He's got zip on the ball. It just came down to decision-making and understanding when to take his chances, really. And Garrett's a guy that, he's I don't want to call him a gunslinger, but he's kind of got that gunslinger mentality of, hey, I'm willing to roll the dice and bet on my guy here to go up and make a play. But sometimes it wasn't always the best decision. So they had to kind of figure out a way to teach Garrett, hey, we still want that element in your game, but it can't be all the time. It can't be in certain situations. It can't be on the first drive of a game where it's 3rd and 9 and you just throw a ball up to, say, Devin Carter just because you have confidence in him. And if it's double coverage or you got a guy in press coverage and a safety over the top, you don't want to take that chance at that point of the game. If you're down by 6 or you're down by 3 and it's the fourth quarter and there's 9 minutes or so left, yeah, take that shot. You're going to get another chance at with the ball, and you're playing from behind. So it makes sense in those situations. So that has been what, from what I'm gathering, has been kind of the biggest difference that they're seeing in Garrett is the maturity, the understanding of the game. And you expect that again with this being, how many years he's been in this system. So I think there's a level of confidence that exists in Garrett. I think there's a level of trustworthiness that exists with Garrett running the offense. But that's also coming along here with Nicco too. So I'm not saying one of these two guys is the starting quarterback, but again, um, I think you can kind of make that assumption. So Neal did mention that there is a possibility that both of these guys will play, not just in the season, but against Penn State. And I don't think that that's just, coach talk or gamesmanship that, Neal's trying to, again, keep Penn State on their toes even further. Because if we're being honest, Penn State has a really good idea what's going on. They watch these press conferences, they take notes, they figure, they have guys that are assigned to these, press conferences that watch them and write down notes from, who they think is kind of leading that battle and whatnot. And they have a good idea. They have a hunch as to who that quarterback is. I'm sure when they watched that today, they said, okay, yup, boom, right there. That's the guy. That's who's going to be starting at quarterback for West Virginia. But when Neal throws in that little bit of a wrinkle as to, hey, there's a possibility we will be playing both of these guys. Okay, now they can't just go all full force and say, we're going to expect to see this guy or this guy for 100% of the snaps. There's that added element to where, well, maybe we do have to still prepare for a series or two, or maybe a package or so for one of these guys to come in and play. And that's going to keep this team honest. So, again, I've been saying this for weeks. I have been saying it for months that heading into camp, Garrett Greene was in a position where it was his job to lose. They have not said anything, and I have not heard anything that has changed that kind of thinking and that he's done anything to lose that job. So we won't officially hear who won that job from Neal until maybe say, next week at the coaches show at Kegler's, or maybe we don't see it until Garrett or Nicco trots out onto the field. But again, I've been saying this for weeks, been saying it for months. Garrett is in a position where it's his job to lose. It doesn't seem like he's done anything to lose it. So that's about all I can go and say right now. But what I do think is very true with Neal, and this is something that maybe he said in the past, and maybe just kind of said it to make sure everyone in that room felt okay about their confidence, or that he wasn't throwing anybody under the bus. But I truly do believe him when he says they feel like they've got two good quarterbacks that he is comfortable with throwing out there. I do believe that because Nicco, again, has made strides ever since he's got here. He is a very talented quarterback, a very talented kid, very smart. He's been a winner since he was a kid, and his future is bright. But when you see the highs and you see the lows, that's a normal thing for a kid his age to go through. Garrett went through it as well. So it's not like this is Garrett's job. If it is Garrett's job, it's not going to be his job from week one all the way to the end of the season. This is going to be an ongoing thing where, hey, if this is the case where Garrett did win the job, he starts the season, you have a little bit of ups and downs, and you're not winning games like you want to. Nicco is right there. He's going to have a chance. And it could be vice versa. If it would be Nicco, which I don't believe it is at all, and you have that same situation, you can go back to Garrett. But like I said last week, I think it was on In the Gun with Jed Drenning and Owen Schmidt and those guys. It's hard to go back to a kid after that's say a freshman or redshirt freshman quarterback, maybe even a sophomore, just depending on the level of experience that he's had in game. It's hard to go back to him after you take him out when he's played bad. or he just wasn't ready. If you put him in there before he's ready, that's a bad thing. It's something that kid may not recover from. Neal has talked about this at length in years past. You don't put a quarterback in the game before he's ready because it's a very fragile position. So if that may be the case where Nicco just hasn't gone out and won the job yet, that's certainly a possibility as well. But they believe in Nicco. They believe he has got a very bright future. They think that they can win games with him, but it may not be right now. It may not be September 2nd in Happy Valley. It may not be, you fast forward a couple of weeks later, September 16th in the backyard brawl against Pitt. But it may be later in the season when it becomes apparent that he is the guy. So as of right now, that's kind of my mindset on this whole thing. But we'll see. Will Neal actually say who that starting quarterback is before the Penn State game? My guess is probably not. If we do, it'll probably be a last minute thing, maybe on, again, during his coach's show next week at Kegler's. It may be in the pregame show on the radio side with Jed and those guys on that game day that Saturday. But I would be willing to bet Neal's going to keep that thing as close to the chest as he can, and just have that level of curiosity from Penn State's side, like, hey, it may seem like it's this guy, but we don't know for sure because we haven't heard it. And if you haven't heard it, you can only go off of so much. When he throws in the two quarterback thing, that's the guessing game that West Virginia has to their advantage right now. Again, when you stack these rosters up top to bottom, Neal understands Penn State's got some dudes that West Virginia doesn't have in their 2D and in their 3D. So when you have anything to your advantage, you got to keep that on your side. And that's what Neal's going to do here with this quarterback situation. So, yeah, I think you have a pretty good idea as to who that quarterback is going to be. I'm not allowed to just come out and say that, but I think you get a pretty good idea of where my head is at with this whole thing. And we'll see what that looks like here in 12 days. So thank you guys for checking in on another episode of Between the Ears here. We double dipped today. If you haven't caught the other episode that we released this morning, it was briefly talking about my expectations for running back CJ Donaldson as he enters year 2 in this offense and has had a full year at running back under his belt. So what can we expect from him in 2023? That's up on YouTube. Be sure to check that out. Hit subscribe on YouTube at Mountain Ears Now. Give us a like. Also follow us on Twitter at Mountain Ears Now. And you can follow myself at Callihan _. We'll be back tomorrow morning. We're going to talk some more of this Neal Brown stuff. He gave out a lot of good quotes. Also, if you want to participate in this week's mailbag, shoot me a DM on Twitter, again, at Callihan _, or you can just at me on the tweet where I'm asking for questions for this week's mailbag. So shoot any questions you got coming my way, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning on Between Ears.